Welcome or welcome back to 100 Pounds Down, where we preach the gospel of GLP-1 and the word is good. I'm Kristen DiBiase, and after a lifetime of struggling with obesity, I lost over 41% of my body weight on tirzepatide, also known as Mounjaro and Zepbound, and I'm never going back. If you've been considering starting an anti obesity medication like these, Ozempic or Wegovy, you're already in the middle of your journey, or you're getting toward that maintenance phase and wondering what comes next, bring it in. Well, hey, everybody. I am really excited to share a couple of updates with you all before we get into our main topic for today. The first one is about the GLP-1 Journal. I know I've been teasing this and I showed you some screenshots. I will throw those up there again now. Um, it has been a labor of love to try to complete this thing. For whatever reason, whenever I decide I want to try to do some kind of endeavor, there's always some weird quirky little trick of fate that ends up complicating things unnecessarily that I then have to figure out how to navigate. And this was no different. I wanted to put together a journal that captured all of the things that I learned along the way and also set things up for some of the stuff I didn't do at the beginning of this journey that I really wish that I had done now that I'm looking back. And so I wanted to set about doing that in a way that made it really easy and really simple for you to continue to track your journey. Because one of the things that we know right away about making a habit or making a change in your habits is that it has to be easy. Because if it's not easy, you're not going to stick to it. And so I wanted to really make this an interactive thing where you didn't have to go through and add a lot of the same information over and over again. I also wanted to make it really accessible to anybody to be able to use. And so I wanted to make it in a PDF format because everyone has access to PDF reader software and is still able to type in it. I wanted to make it so it's as easy to use as possible. Well, of course, little do I know because I'm not a programmer, I'm not a coder, that there are some kinks and little quirks of kind of how PDFs work, where a lot of the things that you would think are kind of built into using them actually aren't. We have been spoiled by word processing programs like Microsoft Office and the Google Suite in terms of certain things that we expect our documents to be able to do with cutting and pasting and things like that. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on some of the issues that I ran into, but suffice to say, I have mad respect for my cousin who is currently in college and studying to become a coder because the stuff that I have been kind of picking through and trying to figure out in order to get this thing to save me some time on how I'm putting it together has honestly been crazy. When I tell you that I know way more now about JavaScript than I ever wanted to, I am not kidding. So, that all said, I am so close to finishing this thing. And the reason that it's taking as long as it is because I have really packed in a lot of features for you all. And one of the things that I wanted to really make sure that I did that was most important to me was to make this journal last for a period of time that could actually cover an entire journey. And so that's why this project has been such an endeavor. The final project, when you get to see this journal, is over 550 pages long because it's really going to take a person the length of the ability to, just like I did, lose 100 pounds or more. So I'm really excited. I'm getting so close to finishing it because there's just some stuff where I could not figure out coding to automate, and I am having to do a little bit of manual programming work with this. But it's going to be so worth it at the end. So that is the latest update on the GLP-1 journal. If you're excited about the GLP-1 journal and are rip raring and ready to use that thing, toss a book emoji or a pencil emoji or a piece of paper emoji down in the comments. I am definitely going to put out pre-sale info pretty soon here. And if you buy during pre-sale, it will be at a 15% discount compared to the regular price. Also, let me know your thoughts. I'm debating on whether or not I should make this available for sale on Amazon or only through my own site. If I make it available in both places, obviously the cost for it would be more if I put it on Amazon because they're going to want to take their cut from things. But let me know your opinions on that, and we will keep trucking on this journal. The other thing that I am excited about and just want to put a small plug in is for my Christmas in July event. So, for people who are newer to the channel and don't know, I am a travel advisor and I do own my own travel agency, JKD Global Travel. And that agency, honestly, was really born out of necessity. I am a person who gets really busy. I really value my time. And when I have free time, I want to spend it doing something fun, relaxing, amazing. And I really just decided to be that travel advisor for myself. And now I also do it for other people who are professionals who have busy lives and they just want to be able to relax and make the most of their free time. So, one of the things that I have done in the past that I am bringing back is an annual event that I like to call Christmas in July. And that's because this is the time of year where it's a perfect length of time for you to be able to find an activity that you would like to do around the Christmas holidays. If you're getting a little tired of spending the holidays at home, if you want to go someplace that is warm and different and do something that is a real splurge just for you to treat yourself, that is what Christmas in July is all about. In the past, I have really looked at all inclusives and I have kind of presented those as the main option that I am curating for people. But this year, after the experience that Jason and I had on Virgin, I absolutely knew that Virgin is going to be my Christmas in July event focus for 2024. So, Virgin Voyages has 3 different cruise experiences that will be taking place during that Christmas holiday period. Virgin recently just won for the second year in a row, Best in the World from Travel and Leisure magazine for cruise lines. Now, for people who have never been on a cruise before, you are absolutely in luck. If you caught the episode where you got to meet my husband, Jason, you'll remember that he said that I got him into cruising, but it was a little bit more than that. Not only did I get him into cruising, before he met me, he'd never been on a cruise, and he actually thought that he hated cruising. And so that is a huge turnaround. And it honestly didn't have anything to do with me. A lot of people who think that they will not enjoy cruising actually end up loving it. And so if you've never been on a cruise before, I'm actually in a couple of weeks going to do a live session. So on Sunday, July 21st at 11 a.m. Pacific, which is 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to do a live and kind of talk and explain the ins and outs of cruising generally, and really why I love Virgin so much and why I've decided to make Virgin the focus for this year's Christmas in July event. So if you are interested in hearing about cruising, if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about my Christmas in July event, absolutely hop online, or you can catch the replay after it's done because it will be alive here on YouTube, that you'll be able to then go and see if you can't be there in real time. And I will be chatting with folks about the Christmas in July event, but also just chatting about cruising in general, because I love it and I love Virgin voyages. So enough of that. Let's get into our agenda for today. So, today we're talking about the why and how of weigh ins. This was the thing that people answered my poll about, that said they wanted to learn about next. So, no worries for people that voted for those other choices in the poll. I'm going to be covering all of those things. This is really just determining the order that I put this content out for you because I want to know what you all want to hear about. So, today we're going to talk about what benefits there are to weighing in. We're also then going to talk about my tips, tricks, and strategies about weigh in, and a couple of places where we can troubleshoot. And I'll also give you my recommendations for what I think are the best scales for weighing in when you are doing a GLP-1 journey. So let's get started. It seems kind of obvious when people start a weight loss journey that they are going to be weighing in, because that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to lose weight. We want to see if we're doing it or not. And so everybody does it. But have you ever stopped to consider the benefits of weighing in, aside from the fact that I want to lose weight and I want to see if I'm losing weight or not? I really wanted to think about the reasons that weighing in can be beneficial for a person besides the obvious. And so when I thought through that, I said, I think there are really three main areas of focus that I see as the primary benefits for why someone should weigh in. It's me, so obviously the first one is going to be data tracking. I really like to approach everything that I do when I'm not sure about something, or if I have a goal that I'm working toward, from a very scientific and logical type of approach. And especially with the different kinds of scales that they have out on the market today, you can get a lot of data points that are really going to be able to support you on your weight loss journey. With data tracking, you are able to do so many different things. If you are keeping information on your weigh-ins, in addition just to whatever your weight is, you get the benefit of having an idea of your body fat percentage. You are able to track your BMI. For people that are using certain kinds of scales, like the one that I use, which I'll talk about a little later, you're also able to get ideas around your numbers in terms of the amount of visceral fat you have in your body. You're able to get an idea of your bone density and the amount of water that you are carrying in your body, and whether or not you are well hydrated. You can get ideas about your muscle tone, all kinds of things that scales are able to track besides just your weight that is going down. That can be really helpful when you are not just trying to lose weight overall, but say you're trying to do body recomposition. So if you're a person who's trying to gain weight, maybe if you're trying to put weight on through muscle, If you have a certain kind of scale that does certain types of measurements besides just tracking your weight, you have that tool right at your feet in your own bathroom. And it's really helpful to be able to use that data and see a picture of what is happening in the journey that you're tracking. Another way that weighing in is helpful for people is the idea of being accountable for people who are on a weight loss journey, but also for people who are where I am and others are in their journey at maintenance. Staying accountable is absolutely a critical thing that you have to do when you are at the maintenance phase. And this is because the way that GLP-1s work, we've all heard what happens if people, they've gone through the studies, they are on these medications, and then they discontinue the medication. We hear that that weight will come back, not entirely, but some of it will come back. And so, one of the strategies that people who are in maintenance should be using, if they are using a GLP-1 medication and they don't intend to take it for the rest of their lives, if they are using it and they feel that they're in a place where they don't have as much metabolic dysfunction as someone who maybe has a profile like I do, where I'm going to have to take this probably forever. One of the things that I recommend for people is you really need to maintain and stay within a 5 to 10 pound range, preferably 5, of your maintenance weight. And you need to be able to try to stay at that weight for at least a year. And this is because of the idea of your body set point weight. Now, one of the ways that you can make sure that you're staying in that range is by being accountable, by continuing to weigh in on at least a weekly basis. That's going to give you an idea of where you're sitting. So you're never getting to that place where the weight starts to creep up on you. And then before you realize it, you've regained a substantial amount and you're wondering what happened. That is why it's so critical to continue to weigh in, particularly for people who are in maintenance. When I think back to the 5 times before this that I had large scale weight loss, one of the things that was absolutely part of that period where the weight would come back on, I stopped weighing in. Every single time, if I think back to it, that is what happened. And so it's really important to continue to weigh in for accountability purposes. Now, when you are still in the journey and you're still on your way trying to go down, this is absolutely important for your accountability to yourself, because you're going to be setting that routine, setting that intention. It keeps you mindful and it keeps your goal of what you are wanting to do right in front of you on a regular and periodic basis. One of the things that is important for people when they are trying to make a major change or instill a habit is repetition. The more you can do something so it becomes almost kind of muscle memory, something that you do automatically without having to remind yourself or without thinking, the more that you will be able to meet whatever goal is tied to that habit being formed. And so that's why it's really important to stay accountable. And that's why weighing in can help you with that. Now, the third big reason that I find is really helpful for weighing in is this psychological impact that comes in around losing the weight. When you are able to see right in front of you numbers on the scale that tell you, hey, you're doing this, you are succeeding, what you are doing is working. That gives you such a dopamine hit in your brain. You feel great because you see that accomplishment right in front of you. Now, one of the things that is kind of a double edged sword around the psychological impact of weighing in is if you hop on the scale and maybe your weight has gone up at a point, or maybe your weight has stayed the same. And so people always wonder, what can I do when that is what is happening? And that's where I always tell people go back to your non scale victories. And that's why tracking is so important, because when you're tracking, and if you're using some kind of tracking method like my GLP-1 journal that I'm working on, you're gonna have other information that you can point to, that you can look at to know, hey, this weight has not changed this week, but that doesn't mean that I'm still not on track. Look at what I did here. I know that I haven't been able to numerically gain this amount of weight in this period of time based on the things that I've done over the last several days, et cetera, et cetera. So even if weight goes up in 1 week, you can go to the receipts. You can see what you have done. And that is something that is able to help you give yourself that self talk that you need to counterbalance those feelings of disappointment and shame that can really come in around a weight loss journey. So psychologically, that can really be a tool where working with your tracking at the same time is going to really help counterbalance any of that negativity that comes up if you're trying to do this type of a journey. Now, one of the things that I like to caution people around. So now we're going to move into some of my tips and strategies, and I will start first with one of my troubleshooting strategies. There are people who I know, I'm included, honestly. I'm not even going to act like it's not me, because I am one. I will weigh myself every day. Is it a good idea? Yes and no. For people who are more prone to feeling those negative feelings around the ups and downs of what's happening on your scale, that can be more detrimental to you and your mental health throughout your weight loss journey than it should be. For other people, it's a control mechanism because they want to know what is happening. You have to really kind of look at who you are as a person and figure out, what kind of person am I? Is weighing in every day going to be something that is kind of psychically painful for me? Or is it going to be something where I'm going to find that helpful in what I am trying to do in my approach? Now, here's what I suggest to people, because in a lot of ways, I'm the data type person, but I also know that weighing yourself every day for purposes of the actual record keeping and tracking, I feel like that's a bit too much. So here is the little trick that I recommend for people. One, for the kind of saving your data. I mean, daily weigh-in data, that's a lot of data points. And honestly, it can really kind of obfuscate the trends that you're trying to figure out. Sometimes too much data is actually a thing. And I know nobody probably ever thought I would say something like that, but I have said it, and I said what I said, as Jason likes to say. For people who are on the data side and need to hold back a little bit from going into data overload, and for those people who do weigh in every day because they kind of feel compelled to, but are having those emotional ups and downs around the fluctuations of your weight, the trick that I recommend is what I do. I have two scales. I know it's crazy. I didn't do that originally for this purpose, but it's a great trick to do if you know this about yourself. I lucked into it, as you know, a lot of times throughout my journeys I have done. But now I get to share that information with you, and you can do it right from the beginning if you know the type of person you are. I have two scales, not because I bought two scales at a time, but because I used to have a dumb scale. It was just a digital scale where you hop on and it tells you your weight. And honestly, that's all it does. It doesn't give you even like a body fat percentage, or anything of that nature. It was just a very simple, glass scale, bathroom scale, hop on. It's nice. I've had it for, gosh, probably I've had it like 20 years. But it's still good. So it's one of those things where you're like, well, this is a perfectly good bathroom scale. Why would I throw this away? That kind of thing, right? I've actually found it helpful because for the part of me that does want to see how am I doing every single day, that's the scale that I hop on every day, except for my main weigh in day. So I'm able to scratch that itch of wanting to know what's happening every single day with my weight without it being added to my tracking data, but still being able to get the benefit of, oh, it looks like, I can tell like my weight has gone up a couple of ounces. I do feel bloated right now, like all of those things. It really does kind of help you hone in on what is my body doing and what is the reason for why it's doing it, and is that being reflected on the scale or not. That is what I do. So I have one scale that is kind of a dumber scale that I can just hop on every day just so I can see, where am I? And then I have my main scale, the one that's all souped up and has all of the bells and whistles and does all of the data tracking, and it syncs up to the app. And that is the one that I use only one time per week for my official weigh in. So that's our first strategy and troubleshoot. You want to be weighing yourself reasonably, and that is how you do it. I decided the way that was best for me was to have a dumb scale and a smart scale. For other people, if you have one scale and you don't want to buy two, maybe for you that's weighing yourself every day, seeing what the result is, and then deleting that weigh in. It's really up to you. Now, the next strategy that I recommend for people around weigh in is this idea of weighing yourself consistently. And when I talk about weighing yourself consistently, what I'm really meaning is when you weigh in, you want to be as consistent as possible in the time of day, in the manner you're weighing yourself, in what you're doing around that weigh in, all of those pieces. Whenever possible, you want to weigh yourself at the same time, in the same conditions, and using the same method. Now, let me break down what that means. When I say the same time, you don't literally have to be on the dot. I must weigh myself at 10 o'clock a.m. or 7 o'clock a.m. every single day. It's not that. It's generally within the flow of your day. When is a time that is consistent for you in the way that you live your life, where you can weigh in and that time will kind of always be available to you? That's really what I'm getting at here when I talk about weighing in at the same time. Now, the next piece, again, is this idea of weighing in the same conditions. When we talk about the same conditions, that is based on this idea of you want to have clean data tracking. And by clean data tracking, I really mean from the scientific viewpoint, this idea of you don't want to confound your variables. So you want to have a constant in this experiment, in this data tracking trial that you are doing with yourself, where you are in the same conditions. So if you are a person who weighs in stark naked, I'm not. Um, but if you are, you should do that every time you weigh in. So if you are at the beginning and getting ready to do this journey, it's one of those things where think about that and kind of plan for yourself what is going to be the easiest thing for you to stay consistent in doing and how you are doing that. So if you are a person who is using one of these souped up scales, you're going to have to take your socks off. And I'll talk about that a little bit later to give you more information on the why around that. But you are going to have to take your socks off every single time if you're going to use the scale that I personally recommend. But that's what I'm talking about. So if you're the person who likes to weigh in their underwear, you want to do that every single time. You don't want to be, oh, today I'm weighing in whatever outfit I have on that I'm wearing for the day. Because a pair of, if you're wearing a pair of shoes, right? A pair of shoes weighs differently than a pair of flip flops. They weigh differently than a set of sneakers. If you're in the winter, you're wearing a sweater, that's going to be a heavier piece of clothing than somebody who's wearing a t shirt. All of those things, which is why, honestly, my recommendation is, either underwear or no clothes if you're a person who wants to get every single possible benefit of this is just me weighing in on this scale. The next thing that you want to do is to set yourself up for success around your weigh in. And I've got several points around this that I recommend for people. So if you're looking for the gold standard around what a weigh in should be, science and what people have done is going to tell you the most optimal way that you can weigh in is immediately on waking up after sleeping, after you have gone to the restroom and voided, before you eat or drink or take any medications. So those are kind of the three pieces of that. And let's break down why that is. Now, immediately on waking, your body it's at its most refreshed. If you can, you would love to set yourself up for that weigh day by making sure that you get a good night's rest the night before your weigh-in day. This is because our bodies rejuvenate, they repair, they do a lot of functions while we are sleeping. And that is why, as soon as you wake up, is often really the best time for you to do a weigh in because you are fresh off of that reparative and restorative benefit that your body has been doing as you've been asleep. One of the things that your body does while you are not eating, if it is not digesting food, is this process called autophagy. And essentially, what autophagy is where your body is going in and doing kind of little cleanups inside your body, removing parts of cells that are degenerative or that are dead, and kind of sweeping that junk out, and then kind of building up the live cells and things that are still there. Your body can really only do this most efficiently if it has been quite a while since you have had food, because that's kind of when your body is essentially going into almost like sleep mode on a computer. A lot of times, if you've ever noticed, when your computer says, hey, we've got an update for you, we'll install this during, off hours or whatever, that's literally what your body is also doing. Regardless if you're trying to get your body into a phase where it is going through this idea of autophagy, you should really, on the night before your weigh-in, try not to eat anything at least 2 hours before bedtime, 90 minutes or so before bedtime. Don't beat yourself up about this if you can't do that. Because recall, you're taking the GLP-1 medication. For a lot of people at certain points in this journey, you're going to be doing all you can do just to get in the minimum nutrients that you need to be meeting for your protein goals and your liquid goals. So some people are going to have to juggle, and there's a trade off there. And if you have to juggle and you have to choose between making those minimum goals for the day and not eating, closer to bedtime than you would prefer, I'm going to tell you all day long, always prioritize getting in your minimums, because your minimums and meeting those are going to be what keeps this motor running. When you short yourself on the liquid, on the protein, on getting in a minimum number of calories for people that really are not eating very much, for those of you that need to track to make sure you're hitting a minimum number of calories, those are the things that will cause you to stall out in your weight loss journey. So if you're trying to figure out the order of importance of these rules, it's really fine. It's really okay if you literally are eating and like you then go to bed right after, unless you are a person that deals with heartburn, which is, we know, one of the side effects that some people can have on these medications, either the entire time or on certain doses. So if you're going to be a person who is dealing with that, and you do have to eat kind of right before bed, make sure you're propping yourself up on a pillow so you can stay upright and really kind of counteract some of those things as you go through the digestive process. Okay. So we talked about making sure that you can get a good night's rest, hopefully being able to stop eating for a period before that goes on. So you'll have the opportunity for your body to fully really work on burning just you during that weigh-in eve, as we like to call it. And then the next strategy is going to be fiber gummies at bedtime. So we'll talk about this a lot more in our episode where we get into, I call them oopsie poopsies and things like that. But I did want to mention briefly for this episode, this idea of take those fiber gummies. I personally take fiber gummies twice a day. I take 2 when I wake up, and I take 2 at bedtime. I will leave the link down to the brand that I prefer in the description and in the comments. It is an affiliate link, so if you click through my link and you end up purchasing that, I may get a dollar if I'm lucky from Amazon. If you do, use my link. So just disclaimer out there. But you want to make sure that you are at minimum, if you're not a person who's dealing with that constipation side effect on being on a GLP-1 medication, do a fiber gummy the night before you have weigh-in, because that will help you when you wake up in the morning. Just so if you can completely get as much out of you as possible before you do that weigh-in. And now, my ultimate super hack that people probably absolutely do not do, but I did for almost the entirety of my weight loss journey, and I never regretted it. The one thing that most people probably are not doing that I recommend that you do is do not weigh in on the day you take your shot. Weigh in on the day after you take your shot. I have done that pretty much my entire journey, and I have really liked the fact that I have done that. The reason why is, especially when you are starting the journey, the first time you take the medication, a lot of people, if they do get any movement, even the ones who don't really lose on the 2.5 dose, everybody, it seems, does get at least a bit of a water weight drop. And so the only time I will ever recommend that you weigh in on a day other than the day after your shot is when you are doing your initial weigh in so you can get your before start weight before you take any of the medication at all. And so folks may remember from way back in the beginning when I was telling my story that I did not have kind of what my official start weight was. I had to go from kind of the last time that I had weighed because of the timing of when I was able to get my shot in, and I was impatient and I wanted to start right away. So that is what I would tell everyone. Aside from the very first weigh-in you ever do, which is for you to get your baseline starting weight, every week your official weigh-in should be taken on the day after you take your shot because you will benefit by having typically that physiological reaction of having taken your shot, and it might cause you to drop another ounce or so, and so that is how I would recommend people optimize their weigh in as best as they can to get the best result for the weigh in. So, quickly to review what we talked about in terms of these strategies. You want to weigh yourself reasonably. If you're going to weigh yourself every day, either delete that data except for the main weigh in day or get two scales where you can hop on and off of one with impunity and it doesn't do anything to your tracking. The thing that we talked about next was weighing yourself consistently. Be consistent at the time in the way that you are doing the weigh in and in the method of how you are weighing. The next thing we mentioned and we talked about was setting yourself up for success by doing certain things on the night before weigh in, including getting a full night's rest, trying to cut off the last time that you eat for at least 90 minutes or 2 hours before bed, if possible, taking a fiber gummy overnight, and then being as optimal as you can with your weigh in by taking your shot on one day and then weighing in on the day after that. And immediately after waking, after using the restroom and voiding, but before taking any medications, eating anything, or drinking anything, doing that weigh in. Now, let's talk about my recommendations for the best scales. Now, back when I was still losing and I was trying to get to that 100 pounds down goal, you'll remember I was doing a lot of accountability content and kind of posting what I was weighing in at each week. And every time I would post those weigh in videos, I would always get the question down in my comments, what app are you using? Well, the app that I was using is called the Renfo Health app. And it is the app that comes with, for free, the Renfo brand of body weight tracking scales. This is the weigh in method of choice that I use for my bathroom scale, for my smart scale. I really like it because it tracks a lot of other parameters besides just your weight. The things like I mentioned earlier. You're going to be able to right away after you weigh in know whether or not you gained weight, whether or not you lost weight, because it makes a cool little sound on the app. You're going to know your BMI. You're going to know your body fat percentage. You're going to know so many other things, the amount of water that's in your body, your bone mass, whether or not you have enough muscle, all kinds of things, including that scary visceral fat that we talked about, how much visceral fat do you have, and whether it is in a safe range or how unsafe of an unsafe range you are in. And those are just some of the measurements that this particular scale takes. Hey, everybody. Editing Kristen here. Remember how earlier I told you we'd be talking about why you have to take your shoes off to do that weigh in? I forgot about that. So I'll explain it to you now. The concept of bioimpedance analysis is what makes all of these newfangled things work when you have a personal bathroom scale that's a smart digital scale. Bioimpedance analysis is simply the concept of taking a very, very weak electrical current and running it through your body. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this process, but the one that applies to bathroom scales is basically called foot to foot. You have to have one foot on one electrode and the other foot on the other. And that's how it completes the circuit for the electricity to go through your body. Don't worry, you don't feel it at all. It's literally like standing on any other regular bathroom scale, except for you do have to have your feet bare. The way that it works is that the electricity is then passed through your body. All of the different substances in your body and the different types of tissue have a different level of resistance to electricity. And so, based on the knowledge of the amount of resistance that a certain type of body tissue has, the mathematical equations that a lot of people who are smarter than I am have put together can determine exactly what amount and what percentage of certain different types of body tissue are in your body. That's how they measure the amount of total water within your body, the amount of body fat compared to your lean muscle mass, the amount of bone density that you have, and the amount of visceral fat that's in your body. The accuracy of a bathroom scale version of bioelectrical impedance analysis is not going to be as accurate as the type of more high-tech versions of the devices that you might use if you were going into a professional place to have things measured, or getting a DEXA body scan, which is essentially where you get into a machine and your entire body is measured and you are able to pinpoint exactly how much body fat you have in your body and where. However, if you continually use the same digital scale and use that same bioelectrical impedance device, the data that you receive will be accurate to itself. So you are really able to use that for the purposes that any of us normal folks would be using it, which is to track the differences in that data over time and notice the trends. So it may not be perfectly accurate compared to much more sophisticated versions of these machinery, but it is going to tell you that your body fat percentage is going down. And that's what's great about these new digital smart scales. All right, back to the rest of the video. The other thing that I love about the Renpho brand of body fat measurement scales is that they have different options that are based on what different people need. So I have two Renpho scales because I'm talking about it constantly. I travel a lot, either for leisure or for work. And so when I'm on the go, I still need to be accountable. And when I was on my weight loss journey, I still wanted to know how I was doing. And so they have a travel size version of the Renpho scale that I have, and I leave it packed in my suitcase and I take it with me on any trip that I go on. So I never have to be like, dang, I don't get to track my weight this week. I'm going to have a gap in my data, all of that. They also have a larger scale threshold. So for people who are coming from a higher weight and going on their GLP-1 journey, you're going to be able to find a scale that works for you. And they are really great. They come in different styles as well. And I just have had a great time using the Renpho scale. And I love the app. I think it's really cute. I like seeing, the message that pops up if I've had a successful week. It's always kind of tracking things. If you've got more than one person in your household, you're able to actually customize and tell it in the app that you have another person. So you can track multiple people within that app and on that scale. So it's not a thing where, oh, I'm the only one that can use the scale. If it's so smart that if you have people that are at similar weights, it will double check and ask, is this correct? If it knows that there's more than one user who is using that particular scale, it will pop up and say, whose weight data is this? Is it yours or is it the other person's? And so that's another really great thing. If you've got a multi-person household going on the journey like we do at my house, then it's no problem. You can have one scale. Both of you can use the app and you can both track your data as easily as just setting the thing down and having that Bluetooth activated. Now, in terms of dumb scales, the dumb scale that I had was honestly, it was a digital scale from Weight Watchers that I had forever and ever. I wanted to look and see if there was a particular scale on there that I would specifically recommend. And it looks like now, generally speaking, that the Weight Watchers scales are now being sold by a specific brand that has partnered with them. So it's not the same scale as, the dumb digital scale that I purchased all those years ago. But they do seem to have some very reasonable options out there. And nowadays, if you're looking just for a basic dumb digital scale, there's really nothing that you can go wrong with. But I'll put down in the description and in the comments links to, and these are affiliate links as well, just making that disclaimer. Specifically the Renfo brand of scales for your smart scales. And I'll also put a link down to some affordable options that seem to have a lot of stars and a lot of people have purchased them. So Amazon kind of considers those some of their best sellers, and enough people have rated it highly that it's not scammers. Okay. That's kind of like the base thing that I use when I don't have a preference for something. I'm sure that a lot of you do that as well. So that is the tea on how you can best optimize your weekly weigh-in and what it's good for. If you think weight loss injections might be right for you, absolutely talk to a medical professional, preferably an endocrinologist or a specialist in obesity medicine, because those are the doctors who know these meds the best. As always, I'm not a doctor and I'm not sponsored by any pharmaceutical companies. I'm just one woman who's giving her own experiences and opinions. And finally, if you find the content on this channel helpful, don't forget to hit that trifecta: like, subscribe, notifications, and I'll see you on the other side.